Lovely, welcome. I'm Rachel from Menopause Cafe Charity, and I'm just going to outline how you can run a cafe if you want to. So listen up, because Menopause Cafe is a specific type of event, and it may or may not match what you want to run. If it does, great, come join us. If it doesn't, fine, just do your thing, but call it something else. So I'll start by going over what is a Menopause Cafe, and then how you can host one, either in your workplace or in your community. And then I'll tell you about Flush Fest, which is our menopause festival in Edinburgh and online in September. Okay, so first of all, how Menopause Cafe started. I watched this TV program, don't know if any of you saw it. This was back in 2017, before Davina, before Marina, before all the other celebs. Kirsty Walk did a documentary on the menopause, and I was 50 at the time. I just thought, oh, what shall I watch on telly tonight? Ugh, menopause is going to happen to me sometime. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked to discover the complexity and variety of menopause symptoms. I just thought, well, one day my periods will stop and maybe I'll get a hot flush. And that was all I knew, okay? So Kirsty's program showed me that there are not just physical symptoms, loads of physical symptoms, but also psychological ones. You know, it's a big deal, or it can be. I didn't have a clue. And it also, her program showed that, at least at that time, that was 2017, people didn't talk about it. Not the people going through it, not the people who were going to go through it. It seemed to be talked about in small hushed corners, and to be a slightly shameful thing to admit to. And I thought, that's a bit odd for something that happens to half the population. This is not niche. You know, more people go through menopause and go through pregnancy, and we're fine talking about pregnancy. And we're getting better at talking about cancer, but why? What is going on? So that was the start of my interest. Now, I was already hosting death cafes. So if you've been to a death cafe, you have a head start, because this is exactly the same thing, except instead of death, we just do menopause instead. Okay. Now, if you haven't got a clue about death cafes, that won't help you. So a menopause cafe is where people drink tea, eat cake, and discuss menopause. Like, that's it in its essence. We have to drink tea. You don't have to eat cake, but it helps the cafe, if it's being held in a venue, to get their income. And we discuss, we are a discussion group. Okay, not a support group, although lots of people find it supportive. So a discussion group is open to everybody. Anyone who's interested in menopause, and frankly, I think everyone should be interested in menopause. They're either going to go through it, or they're going to work with, live with, love somebody who goes through it. And the more people who know about it, the better. So, and our aim is to increase awareness of menopause, to help people make the most of their life, because it's tough and it helps to know about it. So those are our pop-up events, which I'll be telling you about. It took off, and we are now a registered charity. Our aim is to raise awareness about menopause. And we have two activities: the cafes, which I'll be talking about, volunteer-led discussion groups, worldwide now, online and in person. Okay, and these are run by volunteers who don't need to know anything about menopause. Okay, in fact, I think it's better if you know very little about menopause if you're hosting and facilitating, because otherwise everyone will turn to you as the expert, and you're not. And it's a pressure on you. So it's all about empowering the participants to share their knowledge, ask their questions. And the other branch of our charity activities is the festival every year, which does have experts and medics, and it's completely different. So I'm going to spend most of today just telling you about cafes and how to start one. Here are the principles of a menopause cafe. So if you disagree with any of these, we are not for you. So do a little quick checklist. I'll talk through them. See if you like these or not. It has to be in an accessible, respectful, and confidential space, whether that's online or in person. This is tricky if you're hosting a cafe, okay? Because people will not be respectful or confidential. I can tell you that straight off. They don't mean badly, but participants will talk too much, not listen to each other, proclaim, you know, magnetic pants work for me, you should all wear magnetic pants. Or they'll say, everyone should run, everyone should take HRT. They don't mean badly, but many people need a bit of guidance from you as the host on how to say, I found running helpful, I found HRT helpful, rather than saying you. So that is actually tricky, and you do need some facilitation skills and some confidence and a fair amount of bossiness, Also, just to tell them when to move on. Hey, 20 minutes is up, move to a different table. Or that's really interesting, let's hear from the others around the table. Do you know those kind of skills? Nothing to do with menopause, everything to do with people skills. So it's great fun, it's really rewarding, and it's quite demanding, which is why we always say, do this in pairs. Find a friend or colleague to help you run your Menopause Cafe. Do not try and do it on your own. It's too much. And what if you're ill on the night and it's cancelled and it's just easier? What if someone gets upset at a table and you need to go and talk to them? You want someone else to keep an eye on the others. So I'd say do it in twos. And also it spreads the work of marketing it. Okay, so that's that. We do hold them in public cafes, but in a kind of corner or a room or a work cafe, or some people hold them in their homes, but consider insurance and members of the public coming in. Okay, so that's the first principle, respectful, confidential space. Now, this throws some people. Our events are open to anyone. I don't care how old or young you are or what your gender is or isn't. Everyone is welcome at a Menopause Cafe. So yes, that does mean that men come to Menopause Cafes while we discuss vaginal dryness. They are a minority because it takes a brave man to walk in, doesn't it, to a group of menopausal women, hey. So hats off to them, because I tell you, the men who turn up are there to support their mothers, their mother-in-law, their partners, the people they manage. 30-year-old male manager with a 50-year-old woman tells him she's menopausal. He's never said the word before in his life. He wants to find out more about it. I do have a tip, which is when you ask people to sit at tables, I ask the men to stay put, so that when everyone gets up and moves to a new table, people can choose whether they go to a mixed gender table or not. Because some women really aren't uncomfortable. They're not comfortable talking about vaginas with other women, let alone with anyone else. So, and it's great to have younger women. I wish I had been prepared and had known beforehand. And we really love having older women who are past the menopause, because they tell us there is hope and there is life after menopause, and it won't always be this difficult. So can you see why we want everyone there? Otherwise, we can spiral downwards. If you get a bunch of depressed menopausal women together, the conversation is not always uplifting and helpful. It helps us keep perspective. Okay, so if you're wanting like a support group that is only for menopausal women, absolutely fine. Just don't call it a Menopause Cafe. It's a support group. That's different. In reality, most of the people who turn up at the moment will tend to be perimenopausal or menopausal women, but you know, it's important that everyone's welcome. So see how we're doing so far, 2 out of 4. Are you still with me, or have you decided this isn't for you? Not for profit, that's usually fairly simple. Get a cafe to let you use their premises for free in exchange for people buying lots of cake and tea. That's what works for me. Other people say that some supermarkets have community rooms that they'll give to groups for free, or there are all sorts of other suggestions of how to find a suitable venue. And this is fairly key as well. A cafe is held with no intention of leading to any conclusion, product, or course of action. Menopause Cafe is neutral. We're not for or against HRT or magnetic pants or vaginal pessaries or, do you know, anything. This is really important. We can only be a registered charity if we stick to this. Otherwise, we would have to vet any host and check that what he or she is saying is correct or not. And we do not have time. We are 4 little volunteers in Perthshire doing this in our evenings and weekends. So it is vital that a Menopause Cafe doesn't lead any. So that means there are no experts there, there are no speakers. So again, if you know loads about menopause and want to tell people stuff, go ahead and do that. Just don't call it a Menopause Cafe. Give a talk, have a Q&A session, have a whatever you want to call it. At a cafe, it's a bunch of people who want to learn from each other. Because I don't know about you, a lot of people, when they have the menopause, particularly if they view it as a disease or a calamity or a disaster, they feel this big, they feel tiny. And they feel helpless and that they need to ask the experts for the answers. In a cafe, everyone's experience is valid. Even the 30-year-old male manager who doesn't know anything, we welcome him because he wants to know about it. People share their stories, their experiences, their worries, their laughter, their tears. People go away having made friends, you know, lonely people, anxious people who haven't been out of the house for 2 years, come along, and once they've met this. So it has all sorts of good spin-off benefits, a Menopause Cafe. I'm always amazed when I hear the nice stories of friendships and things. Okay, so if you like all of those 4 principles, then maybe you want to host a menopause cafe. If not, go and do something fabulous, but call it something else. Okay, so no experts. I've kind of covered that. Otherwise, if they know you're an expert, this is where Kerry has to be incognito, they will start asking you questions and it will just turn into a question, a bit like we nearly had in this session. It's a participant-led discussion, so you don't need to come up with an agenda or questions. I'll cover the detail in a moment. Social franchise, so we're trademarked. Please don't use our name unless you've signed up with us. It's free. We're not trying to make money out of you. We just need a bit of quality control. And also it means you can list your events on our website. That is the trademark term. Oh, this is what people say after cafes. Top 2 things people say after a cafe. Now I know I'm not alone. And now I know I'm not going mad. That touches me. You know the pain behind those statements? People haven't been talking about it, so they think they're going mad because they can't remember stuff anymore, or hot flushes, or whatever it is. Or sex is painful and they can't tell anyone. So going to a cafe does seem to make people feel a bit better. It doesn't change their symptoms, but they know they're not alone. It often gives them the courage to go and make a GP appointment, or makes them feel more informed about what to say because they've spoken to other people. Yeah, so they're now, volunteers worldwide have taken up the challenge of being a menopause cafe host because it's not always easy. That's why you need a buddy, and run them in various places. We got an award from the government, which was a bit of a surprise. Thank you, whoever nominated us. We're a charity, and Kirsty Walker's our patron. How good is that? Just from a little idea. So you might have your little idea with only 2 people turning up, but you know, it can grow and you don't know what impact you're having on people. Here is our committee, who are all absolute stars, I must say. That's us celebrating, I think, our 2nd birthday. This is me trying to talk menopause to someone. Can you recognize her? This is Princess Anne, not looking that interested. Don't know whether she and her mum ever chatted about it, but hey, she had to talk to me because I'd been invited along for some presentation. We've been in a book, we've won awards. Now, if you want to run one at work, so that's an in-house event just for your colleagues, a lot of people do this. Here are some of the organizations who have run menopause cafes at work. I think this is actually a bit easier than doing it for the public because you've got built-in marketing. You have an in-house newsletter that goes to all your staff, and you usually have a venue and people turn up. So that's one option. You can do it in your workplace, but most of our cafes are brave volunteers holding it for the public, trying to find the venue, trying to figure out how to market it. Here's what to do. We'll do the preparation, the beginning, the middle, the end. Okay. Here's the preparation bit. Read the Menopause Cafe guide. This is on the website, www.menopausecafe.net. There's also a short video because I know not everyone likes reading, but honestly, the guide has got everything in it. It tells you what to do or not to do. It gives you tips, how to run the event, how to publicize it. It's all there. Download it for free. Then if you want to do it, find a friend or a buddy to host it with you. If you can't find one, email us and we kind of keep a running list in case someone else says, is there anyone else in Cardiff? And then we match you up. A bit like a matchmaking service. Once you've got 2 of you, sign our working agreement. It's on the website that says you'll abide by our principles. And then give us a few weeks for our lovely volunteer to process your application, give you a login to the website, give you a welcome pack, which has got like a press release, a poster, the logo, that slide with all the principles on it, that kind of stuff. Great, then you're ready to go. Book your venue, log on to the website, type in all the details of your cafe, the time, the date, the place, linked if you've made an Eventbrite listing or a Ticket Tailor one. Give our other lovely volunteer a few weeks to upload that to the website. Soon we'll have a new system where it will get uploaded immediately. And then publicize, 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 market, publicize. I cannot emphasize that enough. I think this is the hardest bit because you need to know your neighborhood, you need to network. How are you going to get the word out? There are loads of people who want to come to your cafe, but if they don't know about it, how are they going to find it? Okay, that's all the preparation you do before the event itself, which is quite a lot. right? Again, why you need 2 of you. Then at the start of the actual event, everyone's there, all 2 or 10 or 40 of them. I recommend, this is all in the guide, I recommend you start by outlining the principles. So they know what they've come for. This is a discussion group, everyone is welcome, and so on. A bit like I did, just talk them through the principles. I recommend having someone at the door of the cafe to welcome, so that as some unsuspecting person walks in just thinking it's a cafe that's open late that evening, you go, oh, welcome to the Menopause Cafe, and they go, the what? And they can walk straight out if they didn't mean to come into your event, or they will feel nicely. Another reason to have 2 of you, keep one person by the door. I think that's about it for the beginning. I introduce it. I say my little spiel about try and say HRT works for me or running works for me rather than you should. And I explain that we're going to get into little groups. They will already be sitting probably around little tables of 4 or 5 if you're in a cafe, or depends how you've set up the room. So that's the introduction. Tell them what time it will finish. Introduce yourself and your buddy. And then we just invite them to get talking. These are rather large tables. This was a workplace one. But if they're sitting around cafe tables, I think of sort of maximum of 6 generally, otherwise not everyone can talk. And you don't set the agenda, but I suggest that they start by going around and everyone saying, what's your interest in menopause? Why are they there? Because then the young man can say it's for his mother or his colleague, and the young girl can say that she started menopause age 25. Or the woman in her 40s can say, I know it's happening soon, I'd like to know. Do you know what it is? So that just gives everyone a voice. Clearly, if somebody doesn't want to talk, they can say pass and just listen, because you get anxious people. But it stops people just plunging in and dominating. If everyone goes around and say, well, right there, and then just leave them to it. So you'll have warned them at the beginning that every 20 minutes or so, you're going to clap your hands, ring a bell, put on your bossy boots, and encourage them to change tables. Why, I hear you ask, do they need to change tables? Well, what if they got stuck on a table full of very depressed people? That is not helpful for anyone, and it's no one's fault. Gives them a chance to move. What if they got stuck on a table of people talking about HRT and they can't take HRT? Not very helpful, is it? So there are good reasons for every 20 minutes or so really encouraging people to move table. Clearly you don't force them. Maybe they've just found their best friend for life. They don't want to move. Not a problem. But this is part of the facilitation skills, and you need to physically get them to stand up and at least half of them move, except for the men who you ask to stay put. But you'll have had a word with them in the beginning. Or also any journalists, if you get journalists asking to join, I always ask them to stay put and I identify them. But that's something you can ask us about later, how to handle that. Or politicians also can be a mixed blessing. So every 20 minutes or so, you get people to get up and move to another table. Ideally, they move at any point, but I've discovered that British people don't like doing that. First few cafes, we just said, look, if you end up on a table where you're neither contributing to the conversation, nor are you gaining from it, just get up and move to another table. People didn't like that. They said, please, can you ring a bell and tell us to move? I went, really? And they said, yes. So that's why we do it this way. You do whatever works for you. If you're online, much easier. You've got the big breakout room button, so you can just switch them into different groups and move the breakout rooms. Then when they've done that 2 or 3 times, depending how long your cafe lasts for, we usually say an hour to 2 hours, you mop up, thank the venue. Oh, at the beginning, you encourage everyone to buy stuff if it's an in-person one. Thank the volunteers. Now, this is optional, but I quite like to finish a cafe, particularly if there are less than 20 of us, just inviting people to chip in, you know, as a whole group and say what they found useful. Because that brings a bit of group cohesion and manages to end on a positive note when people say what they found useful. And it's really helpful for you as the host to think, oh God, it was worth it. People have found this useful, thank goodness. And then there are feedback forms that we ask. They can fill it in online, or you can print hard copies so you can get to look at them. That gets sent back to us. You write up your feedback form so we get a rough handle on how many people turned up. Keep our stats up to date for the multitude of journalists who expect me to know instantly how many cafes have been run in each country and how many people have attended. And then I recommend writing it up. If you've got a blog or a little local newspaper that might do a paragraph for you, or your church news, any group you belong to, write up a paragraph. It's all part of the publicity. Oh, and I should have said, get people's emails so that next time you run one, you can email them all and go, here's the next date. Or if you've put it on Eventbrite or Tickettailor, you'll have their email addresses anyway, so they can spread the word. So that was our prep, beginning, middle, end. If you run them in the workplace, look what a menopause cafe can spawn. So it's a grassroots thing. If you hold one in your workplace, it might lead to exciting things like managers being trained in menopause, or speakers talking about menopause, or support groups or champions, or becoming a menopause-friendly workplace or a menopause policy. But I think it's a lovely way to start grassroots up, rather than people at the top deciding what needs to be done and telling you. Those are different accreditations. Quick plug for Flushfest 23. Flushfest is our annual menopause festival, this year live in Edinburgh and online. So you can join remotely, go to www.flushfest.net or menopausecafe.net. I think I've got the wrong poster there. Oops. There'll be a cabaret night on the Friday night, comedians, storytelling, everything on the theme of menopause. If you can laugh about it, it's easier to take it, isn't it? And you know you're not alone. Various speakers, including Heather Curry from the British Menopause Society, talks on sleep and nutrition, and interactive workshops where you can do things with other people. Last year we had Kirsty and Nicola, which was fabulous, talking about their experiences of working through the menopause. This year we've got Val McDermott and her partner Jo talking about what it's like living with someone going through the menopause, because that's not easy either, partner's perspective. We need help. If you happen to know a really competent organizer admin person who would like to volunteer, get in touch with me. I need someone by August, when the current volunteer is stepping down. If you're any good at writing grant applications, although we run it on nothing, we still seem to need money. That would be great. Or sponsoring Flushfest. And we're on social media, so why not follow us and chip in to the conversations there?